Hey, do you wish you had a group of people you could discuss and learn about movies with? Welcome to Kaden's Movie Club, which is kind of like a book club, but for movies. The highest grossing movie of all time is 1939's Gone with the Wind. The list of top 10 highest grossing movies of all time, adjusted for inflation, also includes Sound of Music, The Ten Commandments, and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. All of these came out over 60 years ago, some of them closer to 90. And yet, the modern idea of a Hollywood blockbuster didn't really form until 50 years ago, in the summer of 1975, with a little movie about a big shark. Since then, the stretch from Memorial Day to Labor Day has been seen as Hollywood's blockbuster movie season. July is smack dab in the middle of that season and usually has some of the studio's biggest movies. This year we're seeing Jurassic World Rebirth, Superman, The Fantastic Four, and of course the most highly anticipated movie of the summer, Smurfs. And that's why our July movie club theme is going to be Summer Blockbuster. And since Hollywood has been doing summer blockbusters since 1975, there's a lot of movies to choose from, but we only have 4 slots in our lineup. The inherent idea of a blockbuster is that it makes a lot of money, and all 4 of our movies definitely did that, but I didn't just pick the highest grossing movies of all time. First, because that starts to get complicated when you factor inflation and re-releases and that kind of thing, but more importantly because I wanted to examine movies that made an impact on pop culture and the ideas around a blockbuster. So our movie lineup will be Jaws, Star Wars, and if you're wondering which one, it's technically Episode 4, A New Hope, but it was the first one ever released back when they just called it Star Wars, Jurassic Park, and Barbie. Now you might be thinking, I've seen all those movies, but hold on. First off, they're really good, watch them again. But more importantly, I think it's worth rewatching these movies with a new lens. Pretend this is your first time seeing it. Imagine how the original audiences would have experienced it back in 1977 or whatever, and ask yourself, why did this resonate so much at the time? And over the course of the next month, I'm going to make the case that these 4 movies signaled major milestones in blockbuster history. And our first movie is Jaws. So let me set the stage. As you might have heard, it's the 50th anniversary of Jaws this year. It's one of the most famous movies of all time, and it's easily one of my favorite movies. The film itself is great, but the story around it, the behind the scenes, the culture craze when it came out, it's all just as interesting.
It kept failing and failing and failing and failing.
I kind of was almost angry that I was making the movie halfway through.
We'll be diving into all of that when we do our full breakdown. The reason Jaws is so relevant to summer blockbusters, aside from the fact that it's the 7th highest grossing movie of all time, is that it's often considered the first summer blockbuster. But even the term blockbuster has come to mean something different to us since Jaws came out. I spent most of my life thinking the term referred to the idea of people lining up around the block to see a movie. But it was actually coined in the 40s and 50s in the wake of World War II. During the war, the term blockbuster had a much more horrific meaning, describing a large-scale weapon. But then the term was ironically used to describe movies that had a major box office impact, kind of like a bomb, but in financial terms. Which is funny because today, a box office bomb means it did poorly. It was more like, it's da bomb. By the time Jaws rolled around, I think my imagined definition serves much better because people were lining up around the block to see this movie and to see it over and over again. But 50 years later, blockbuster has almost become its own genre. You say blockbuster today, and people will tend to think of a big sci-fi or superhero action movie. But it started with a story about a massive great white shark terrorizing the citizens of a summer vacation spot known as Amity Island. So here's some questions to keep in mind while you watch. Why do you think this movie had such a cultural impact at the time? Do you think you would have lined up to see the movie multiple times back in the summer of 1975? Why did people do so? Think about the technology available at the time. Shooting on film, no CGI, no digital tools of any kind, and then consider what kind of challenges do you think the crew faced while trying to film on the actual ocean and depict a believable shark? Can you see the results of any of those challenges on screen? Do you think the movie is still relevant today? Is it still scary? If this was your first time seeing it, how do you think your experience compared to audiences back in 1975? Our last 2 monthly themes were kind of heavy, so hopefully this will be a little bit more fun, but have no fear, there's still plenty to analyze in these movies. I hope you guys are excited about the theme, and I'll see you next week to discuss Jaws. And if you want to stay up to date about the movie club, you know where to go.